I'm so excited to share something new I'm going to do, and that is teach a group of sixth graders how to make a small junk journal, kind of an introduction in their 30-minute lesson in their library time at school. I have made an example for them. This is kind of like two different styles. One is kind of geared toward the girls so that it has a few things that are more floral and maybe more things that I think the girls would like and ideas for them. And then the boys have a bunch of cool different, I have some of these things overlap, of course, because boys and girls have different interests I follow, but I've given them some ideas about how to make doodles, how to use magazine and other kinds of pictures. So basically what I've done is made two examples, and the binding will be just a simple like travel notebook kind of binding with a rubber band. I've created for them this little recycled folio using some folders. I got a huge stack of folders at a flea market at one point, and they've just been sitting here. I love the brown craft color, and I've actually sacrificed all of them to make their little kits for them to make their little journals. So I'm always on the lookout for these kind of recycled manila folders or these craft brown folders, which I love. They're kind of olivey green and brown. And I've showed them how they can decorate a rubber band to make it look kind of colored and such. So this is the one example of how they can use tabs. And I've given them a variety of papers. So what I'll do is I'll give them, here's an example. I'll give them one of these blank folders that I've made. And I've reinforced it because I noticed that the rubber band binding was kind of crunching the paper up a little bit like this. So I reinforced it with another chunk of leftover folder bit. Made some side pockets for them, just to give them an idea of what you can do with recycled materials. So I've made enough of these for all the students in sixth grade. I will give them each a rubber band, plain, and show them how they can colorize it with Sharpies if they want to. I will give them approximately, I can't remember how many, maybe 10 pages, so it makes a 20-page journal. I can't remember. But I've given them a variety of graph paper, recycled paper, dyed papers that I have made, some fabric bits, a variety of scrap book pages, scrapbook paper. Here's a page I dyed. Some little elements like things I've rubber stamped. Some bits of books, like this was from a arts and crafts movement. Some fish, cool designs that are like Art Nouveau. Papers that I've dyed, pages from old journals, little bits and goodies that they could make page tabs with, like this is a silk eucalyptus leaf that I've attached there just to give them an idea. So they're going to see this example of a journal, and they're going to see this example of a journal. I've given them all similar kinds of paper. One music sheet, or like a piece of it, a piece of paper from another language. Some are like Japanese, some are German, some bits of calendar. Each of them has like a envelope. This is some of the paper I gave them. I think it's Chinese. This little envelope, of course, is a junk mail envelope, so I'll use that as an example of what you can do with a junk mail envelope. And they each have an envelope in their stack of little papers, but this will show them what they can do with it. I only have 30 minutes with them. So basically what I'll do in those 30 minutes is show them how to assemble the pages with this travel notebook style binding. Super simple. They can reproduce it all they want at home, and I'm hoping that some of the kids will catch the bug and that they'll come back to me and ask questions. I'm actually the secretary at this school, and I put one of my journals in the silent auction as the fundraiser, and a lot of the kids took notice and were asking me questions like, how do you do that? Because I'd put in a fairly, sewn in pages journal, of course, more detailed, a lot more time and details. So, but this will maybe give them the bug. So here's a tuck spot. I'll give them little bits and pieces. This is just a piece of a calendar that I copy dyed, and then I stuck a little tea bag tag to the top, and I put some tea bags in some of their little kits. So I've given them each a kit of a blank little folder like this, made from a file folder, which I've just kind of assembled and put in the side pockets using, I just tried to make the most of the file folder. So I made enough of those kits, or those sleeves, for the 2 6th grade classes at the school where I work. And then I'm going to give them each a kit of goodies. So this will have all the bits that they can put on their pages. I'm giving them a set of pages similar to the ones that were in the example. So I've given them little bits, maybe things that are already assembled into sort of like pockets, little bits of ephemera. This was from a wristband that you would use at a carnival. And actually this was a carnival event at their school a couple of months ago. So they may recognize, oh, that was from the carnival. So they can put that in maybe as a page tab or a belly band or whatever they want. It's some kind of embellishment. You can see it looks kind of like carnival themes with like a roller coaster, bumper cars, and looks like a hot dog stand or something. So lots of neat things. Brown paper, paper in other languages, bits of black and white. This was actually, a lot of this is recycled materials from the office. So when I worked there in the office, like our reams of paper come in these wrapped up, the paper that wraps up the ream is often printed with something you could color. Like they're trying to make the most of this wrapping paper around the ream of paper. And I've noticed this on they're different companies, but this one has like you can kind of tell this is kind of a tropical leaf, but the whole big page that wraps the ream was a coloring page. So I cut that into small bits to give each one of them a sample. And I'll tell them, this came around the reams of paper that were sent to the school by a business. Found a variety of things cut out of newspapers. My husband found some things in a newspaper. He said, how would this be for your kits? I'm like, I would love it. Thank you. So he cut some out. Some old notepads that you get from like when you donate to a company like a children's hospital or something, they'll send you a little gift of notepads. So I have some of those, and I disassembled them and put them in each of their kits. This is some paper money from a game by Hasbro. This is a local race in our town at Thanksgiving time, the turkey trot. Sorry. So I put in a variety of papers, some more of that carnival wristband. Of course, I put in a playing card, and I'll kind of teach them some of the lingo about junk journals, like ephemera, signatures, things like that. So I'll tell them that, playing cards, tickets, receipts, and things like that are very common items in a junk journal. This is a piece of I think a dictionary or encyclopedia, a very old one that's falling apart. This is an origami paper, music paper. I found a lot of sheet music at flea markets recently. This is a piece of official scrapbook paper. Just interesting bits of paper that I have, of course, accumulated over time working on junk journals. This is from a Reader's Digest book, but look how aged it looks, and it's kind of fragile. But I think that some of the kids are going to catch the bug, I am sure. Some may not be that interested, but it's still a good lesson on bookbinding. I'll talk to them about library bookbinding. I'll show them examples of other binding, just to give them a little taste of vocabulary. And I already know that some students are already interested and have been asking me questions. But anyway, I'll include a few pieces of material that they can use as page tabs. A piece of wallpaper. I have a whole roll of this. It's kind of a ship and maps, kind of cool nautical themes. Anyway, I've got maps. That's Australia. I'm trying to decide which way is up. Some more bits and pieces of calendar and paper from other languages. Dictionary. I just thought this was cool, this train. I can't remember what book that's from, but I found a bunch of train things that I cut out. Here's another piece of ephemera. I think this was a greeting card, and I kind of turned it into I got this little punch that has this little half moon divot that you can use as a catch. So I was playing around with that, but that's like a cocoon and a butterfly coming out of it. Oh no, that plastic was something I was working on earlier. That's not part of the kit. Anyway, I hope to inspire them to catch the bug and start wanting to make their own junk journals. And I have no doubt that I'll get more questions from them as they learn about how to make a junk journal on their own and assemble it. And I was going to show them, I'm going to talk to them about library bindings in their library and maybe pull a book from the shelf that show them how sturdy library bindings are because they have to put up with so much traffic and use. But then I'll show them a journal that I've made where I've just made the tab binding. And I'm sure you've seen these. There's several tutorials of other people making these and easy to find tab binding journals. And I'll show them how you can use tab bindings, which is a simple way to make bindings on a junk journal. And these are some of my hand-dyed papers, and I've added tabs and such. And I'll show them this example. I'll show them an example of a journal I've made where I've sewn in the pages, kind of like the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and just give them an idea of the different kinds of bindings they could use. This is something I've made in the last week, just following, I don't know if it was Wendy's Journal Adventure or it may have been Wendy's Journal Adventure or Shabby Dabby Doodah or Roxy's creation, but I was making some of these ephemera using dried flowers from my flower press. I'm going to scooch this over so you can see it better. Dried flowers from my flower press, putting in, and this is kind of a dark acetate, but it's recycled from some, when I found it, I thought this either is very old or it was kind of this brownish color to begin with. But I added my own little tag inside and sewed around the edges, glued in a piece of dried flower that I've dried in my flower press. And then this one was a dried flower. It was kind of falling apart in my box of dried flowers. It's a tag I made from using a rubber stamp and just writing my own writing and putting 21 on there. So I'll show them some examples of other journals I've made that are much more complex. But this is my box of dried bits that I'll pull out and show. Maybe I'll include one dried bit in each one of their packs so they get an idea of what they can do. But it is so much fun to dry things. You don't have to have a flower press to dry flowers. I think this is a dianthus from last season. Of course, my dianthus is blooming again, but this is a dianthus from last season. Some eucalyptus leaves, another dianthus from last season, and what do you call that? Gypsophilia. What's it called? Baby's breath. Actually, one of these petals from the coneflower did not make it into my plastic acetate, but these are so much fun to make, and you do not have to have a flower press or the microwave. There's a microfleur machine which you can use to microwave flowers to press them more rapidly, but none of those things are necessary. All you need is an old book where you press flowers in it, and old book pages make a wonderful absorbent press that will preserve your flowers and the color. So don't think you have to get a flower press for that. I happen to have a flower press because my grandmother, who passed away about 10 years ago, she had a small flower press, and I love using it mostly for the nostalgia of the fact that it was hers. This is Crepe Myrtle, and my channel is called Crepe Myrtle Journals because I have a crepe myrtle outside my window. I've loved crepe myrtles since my mother loved them, talked about them all the time. And so I have dried crepe myrtle, and I can't even remember what this is. I think it was a bouquet from my husband, and I told him whenever you find small flowers, I really prefer those in a bouquet because I can actually continue to use them. And so they're beautiful while I enjoy the bouquet, and then I can press them and continue to enjoy them for a long time and use them as junk journal fodder. So he's learned a little lesson about buying bouquets with small filler flowers that would be great in a junk journal. Anyway, just wanted to share with you, there are some ways that you can enhance the junk journal community, share the joy of junk journaling with other people, and get kids interested in it. When I was working at a children's home in Honduras, junk journaling got us through the COVID pandemic. We were in a rural setting, not much access to stores, not much money for lots of special materials, but the kids and I at this children's home had so much fun making junk journals out of whatever we had, and we learned to be resourceful and use what we had. So it really got us through COVID. It was kind of like our therapy. You know, you'd be feeling down and just didn't know what the future held, and we would spend time together. Of course, it involved a lot of prayer and asking the Lord, what does tomorrow hold, or how can we trust you even when we don't know what tomorrow holds? So I don't mean to minimize the fact that God was answering prayers and helping us through that time, but he definitely gave us the gift of junk journaling to help us through that time. It's been therapy, and it's continued to be therapy for me since I've returned to the States. And anyway, I just wanted to share an idea of how to use the love that you have for paper and ephemera and junk journaling, and how you can pass that on to another generation and see them enjoy it so much. Thanks for listening. This is Crepe Myrtle Journals.